Today we're ranking every single Mario RPG from worst to best. And to absolutely nobody's surprise, the worst game is Paper Mario Sticker Star. I don't think there is a single video game series that compares to Paper Mario in terms of highs and lows. Some Paper Mario games are absolutely incredible, but others are Sticker Star. This is the only game on the entire list I don't even feel is worth playing. Sticker Star lacks almost everything the Paper Mario series is known for. First, the world you explore is extremely bland. Exploring the world is one of my favorite parts of any Mario RPG. But not only is there not a lot to do here besides picking up stickers, the levels themselves are extremely bland. Aesthetically, the game looks fine, especially with being on the 3DS, but in every area there's really nothing to do. There are a lot of toads if you want to talk to them.
No, I don't.
Beyond a few select characters, pretty much everyone you're gonna talk to in this game is a toad, and most of them look exactly the same. And I could get past that a little bit if the story itself was good, but it is impressively boring. Bowser tries to steal the sticker comet, which leads to it getting split up into the 6 royal stickers, which now makes it Mario and his new friend Kirsty's job to get them back. And that is pretty much it. The rest of the game, you're pretty much doing exactly that with nothing else in between. One of the biggest parts of an RPG is the story, and for Nintendo to completely disregard that is a disgrace. Every other Paper Mario game before this had a story that was good to incredible, but there is no other way to describe this game's story than flat out bad. But somehow, that is not even the worst part, because using stickers for everything is one of the worst decisions Nintendo has ever made. As an idea, stickers could have been absolutely incredible, but they were just executed terribly. In every area you explore, there will be stickers on pretty much every surface, and you can pull them off and take them with you, and honestly, that part is pretty good. It makes exploring the areas at least somewhat fun and engaging, and as you go through the game, there are better stickers at your disposal, which makes looking around for stickers even more fun. However, there is a cap to how many items you can hold, which made the gameplay feel more like an inventory management simulator than anything else. The battles themselves are fine, but you are encouraged throughout the game to not do them. There is no leveling system in this game at all.
Preposterous!
Somebody with more brain cells than me needs to explain why they thought that would be a good idea. There were 2 fixes that could have made the game at least somewhat playable. The first would be to add a standard attack that could allow Mario to do something other than use stickers, and the second would be to add any sort of incentive to battle, ideally earning experience, or the ability to level up the stickers when you use them, which would make it so people would want to do battles in this game. They do have upgrades to your health and inventory space that you can get by playing the game, but I will never understand why they made a game that incentivizes you to skip through playing the game. I could go on for days about why Sticker Star is not good, and if you like it, I'm glad, but to me, it's the worst. And if you thought I was gonna be done talking about Paper Mario, you'd be wrong. Kind of. Up next is Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. Unlike Sticker Star, I do think this game is actually good. I genuinely enjoy this, but having just revisited this game, though it is incomparably better than Sticker Star, it's still a pretty lackluster Mario RPG. I have a soft spot for the Mario and Luigi games, and when I heard there was going to be a crossover between Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi, I was ecstatic.
And then it came out. What were they thinking?
Both Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi are known for their incredible world designs, their humor, and their unique gameplay mechanics, for the most part. So when Paper Jam came out, everybody was expecting the best of both worlds. And what we got was almost the complete opposite. Though they had the potential to pull the best from both franchises, they really only scraped the surface of both, creating a game that took the main characters from 2 iconic series and really did nothing with them. Looking at the positives, gameplay-wise, this feels amazing. The gameplay, especially in the overworld, was overhauled to feel incredible. Things like being able to dash around that was not possible in other games makes exploring the world feel so much better. And in battles, having the bros attacks and the trio attacks both feel really good and are incredibly useful. A lot of the attacks I got early in the game, I was still using well into the late game, which is how you know this game did something good. But after that, the cracks really start to show. Story-wise, it felt incredibly generic. It follows the typical Mario story of Bowser kidnapping Peach, and that is really it. There is the overarching goal of collecting all of the paper toads, but there's really no stakes or interesting characters to make you want to beat the game. There are some incredible characters and stories from both Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi they could have pulled little details from to make this feel more engaging, but no, we're just saving Peach. Of course, the main gimmick of the game is that you're not just playing as Mario and Luigi, this time you also get Paper Mario tagging along for the ride. For reasons I still don't understand, we only get Paper Mario and not Paper Luigi, which to a certain point I understand, but it would have been great to give Paper Mario a companion like Paper Luigi or one of the followers from the Paper Mario games, not only to add something to mitigate the complete lack of ambition, but it could have also made this game feel more like Partners in Time, really making it feel more unique. This was also the first game where they changed the leveling system to not allow you to level how you want, and giving you flat bonuses whenever you level up, which is something I still do not understand. And the main gimmick of the game is the new papercraft battles, which I guess are alright, but I really don't love them. This is the textbook definition of this is fine. A lot of the Mario and Luigi games try something new like this, and I can't say I hate this because it's not bad, but it also just feels kind of,
I don't know why they did this.
I do really think Paper Jam is a good game, but the main reason I put it this low is that it could have been incredible. Combining two of my favorite Nintendo series of all time together seems like a great idea, but when it gets executed like this, it really tears me up. Up next is Super Paper Mario. If I was judging games based on story alone, Super Paper Mario would be at the #1 spot, no question. But it's hard to even consider this an RPG. Unlike Sticker Star, this at least has experience points, so there is a leveling system to the game, which is nice, but this is more of a platformer with RPG elements.
Still better than Sticker Star.
If this played more like a typical RPG, I would have it at the top of the list. But the gameplay here is really kinda weird. This was the first Mario game released on the Wii, and it really suffers from early Wii game syndrome, where there's mechanics that utilize motion controls for no particular reason other than that they exist. There's multiple times throughout the game where you have to point your Wiimote at the screen to find hidden doorways and items, because why not? They were developing this originally to be a GameCube game, so the goal was to have it feel different than Thousand Year Door. So it entirely abandoned the turn-based combat in favor of a more typical Mario platformer style, which really isn't bad, but it doesn't feel like a Mario RPG. But I think this game has the best story a Mario game possibly could. It has the loose Mario story of Peach getting kidnapped and Mario having to go on a journey and collect different shiny objects. But beyond that, Count Bleck and his crew are incredible villains. The first half of this game feels like a typical Mario adventure, but the second half is the complete opposite. As the story unravels, you get to hear more about Count Bleck's plans, see what happens to the world as a black hole spreads, and watch the entire world fall apart.
Did whoever write this go through a divorce recently?
You can play as Mario, Luigi, Bowser, and Peach in this, which is a really nice touch, even though most of the time you're gonna end up playing as Mario anyways. It only slightly makes up for the fact that the side cast of characters in this is not that great. With abandoning the typical RPG elements, there's no need for Mario to have any companions. So where the story focuses on a lot of great characters throughout it, there are a lot of other characters you'll see throughout the story that are just kind of there to take up space. So overall, though Super Paper Mario is an incredible story, it's missing every other part that would make it a truly perfect RPG. And for those people who thought Paper Mario was done catching strays, up next is Color Splash. I might be one of the few people who genuinely enjoys Color Splash for what it's worth. My biggest concern going into Color Splash was that it was going to be another version of Sticker Star. And honestly, it kind of is, but at least this time I somewhat enjoy myself. The best part of Color Splash is hands down the humor and the world you get to explore. It does have a very similar issue to Sticker Star where the character variety is extremely limited. Outside of the Koopalings, a lot of the characters you run into are just kind of there, and most of them are toads with a title instead of a name. But that didn't stop them from absolutely nailing the humor. Almost every character in the game has something funny to say, and there were multiple times where I laughed out loud playing this game. And the world you explore is visually stunning. Every little detail is made out of paper, and you can tell they went above and beyond trying to make everything fit. It has the same world map system that Sticker Star did, but this time it works so much better. I would prefer to have a big world to explore, but in this case it works because every single area is brimming with detail. They didn't have to waste any resources trying trying to find a way to segue from one area to another. But everything else about this game is just kind of
Nintendo, why are we not learning from our mistakes?
Though this was a massive improvement from Color Splash, and it's more of an RPG than Super Paper Mario, the gameplay loop makes me want to eat a sheet of glass. The process of every battle is extremely drawn out, having to use the Wii U gamepad, where you have to pick a card, fill it with ink, and then flick it towards the screen. And my only question to Nintendo is why? They did fix the issue where at least this time battles have some sort of purpose, because battling enemies allows you to hold more paint in your hammer. But I don't think at any point in this game I ran out of paint. They also drop coins which you could use to buy cards, but again I had so many coins throughout this game I never had to worry about cards at all. So though there was more of a reason to battle, I still wouldn't want to because of how tedious it was and because the rewards were not rewarding. But the last and most notable issue is how easy this game is. It's a Nintendo game, I'm not expecting it to be incredibly difficult, but I do expect some level of challenge at some point in the game. And there was only 1 or 2 times throughout the entire game where I actually had a challenge. Because of how easy it is to get cards, you can have some of the best cards in the game throughout the entirety of it, which meant you could blow through pretty much any enemy or boss with ease. But ultimately, I will always defend Color Splash for being a good game. It may not be a game that you want to replay hundreds of times, but if you are a fan of Mario RPGs, I do highly recommend it. Up next is Paper Mario: The Origami King. Regardless of what anyone tells you, Origami King is a good game. Does it have some issues? Absolutely, but so do I. The premise of Origami King is incredible, and I don't know how it was not touched on earlier. Having an enemy who wants to fold the world up is a great idea. In my opinion, having Bowser as the main villain for the last 2 games was just lazy. I get he's the poster boy for Mario villains, but he doesn't fit the vibe Paper Mario has. But having King Ollie is not only refreshing because he's not Bowser, but also because he's an actual good villain. The beginning of this game starts off at 11 and really sets the tone for what's to come. Watching Peach's castle get ripped out of the ground by streamers is something that I never thought I would say, but the fact that it worked and was suspenseful is something I'm impressed by to this day. The most impressive thing to me though is that the world you explore is the best the series has ever seen. It feels like they doubled down into the adventure feeling a lot of RPGs have that I had desperately missed in the last few Paper Marios. You can tell they tried to bring back some of the feelings the original Paper Mario games had by bringing back companions who join you on your journey, and even though they're not as good as they used to be, they're still not bad by any means. The real notable change here though was to the battle system, and there are parts of this that I absolutely love and others that I despise with every fiber of my being. I'm a big fan of puzzles, and having a battle system that revolves around that is a good idea. Having to organize enemies into a certain pattern and getting buffs for doing it well is a great idea. There was only a few times where I didn't genuinely enjoy this, and luckily there was a way to skip it altogether. Like in typical Mario fashion, whenever you win a battle, you get coins. You can use those coins to buy items or to bribe toads in the area to help jump the enemies you're fighting. So if there's ever a time in the game you don't feel like battling, there's a way to bribe yourself out of it. For some reason though, they decided to keep XP out of the game. Similar to Color Splash, this doesn't make it so you don't want to battle, but Nintendo, is it that hard to add some sort of progression-based system to a Paper Mario game? Throughout the game, there are hearts spread out in various hidden locations, and I do like that because it encourages you to explore the great world, but at the same time, I really wish there was more incentive to battle, because for the first time in a while, the battles are a good time. The only thing that actually bothers me about the Origami King is that I don't love fighting office supplies as a boss. There is story context to why this is the case, and I do admit it fits the story incredibly well, but with how many great enemies there are in the Paper Mario series, fighting a ball of rubber bands really doesn't do it for me. Again, it's written well, but I can't be the only one who thinks this is dumb. But having a great world to explore and a battle system that is not an inventory management simulator, along with Paper Mario somewhat returning to its roots for the first time in a while, makes this the best new Paper Mario we've had in a long time. But I'm gonna give Paper Mario a brief break and talk about Mario and Luigi again with Partners in Time. There are a lot of people who absolutely adore this game, and having recently replayed it, it's fine. The idea behind it is extremely cool. Mario and Luigi time travel to the past, team up with their past selves, and get to fight aliens? You cannot tell me that is not an engaging idea. The evil alien race, the Shroobs, have been attacking Mushroom Kingdom, and you get to play as Mario, Luigi, Baby Mario, and Baby Luigi in a time-traveling adventure to stop them and rebuild the Cobalt Star. I don't know if it's just me, but I think the Shroobs as an idea are extremely cool. They're like Toads, but evil and purple. I don't know about you, but that's cool to me. Of course, the main gimmick behind the game is playing as all 4 characters, which is an incredible idea that wasn't executed super well. The game boils down to throwing Baby Mario and Baby Luigi into areas that Mario and Luigi can't access, and having them solve a puzzle, then return back to their older counterparts. And you rinse and repeat that for the entirety of the game. A lot of the time, this idea feels forced to extend the game, and once they introduce it as a concept, they never build on it in any unique ways. Another major change is that Bros attacks are now Bros items, which I think is a fine idea. Being able to purchase these as items makes it so it's very easy to cheese your way through most of the game. And though this game is more difficult than Superstar Saga, it's not by enough to make me feel like,
Are you good in here? This game is making me lactose intolerant.
The biggest problem this game has, though, is the exploration. Going from time hole to time hole to explore different areas is a good idea. Outside of Yoshi's Island, most of these areas are just kind of fine. Aesthetically, the destroyed Mushroom Kingdom looks incredible, but there's no real substance to any of the locations. But I will say this game's saving grace is that the battles are all incredible. I think the Mario and Luigi games have the most consistently strong battle system through all of the Mario RPGs. I guess Paper Mario does not make that very hard. Getting to play as both brothers and their baby versions, though, is very fun. It changes the gameplay just enough to make it feel engaging, but not enough to make you feel like you're playing a different game entirely. The RPG elements are great, but what makes me really like this game is the story. There are points in time where this game is incredibly dark. One of the bosses in this game is the Squiggler, who literally is drinking the life essence of Toads throughout the Mushroom Kingdom. The overall goals of the story is to save Princess Peach and rebuild the Cobalt Star, which I guess is not the most groundbreaking premise, but having to defeat the Shroobs and in turn destroy their entire race, along with seeing the devastation they cause in their wake, makes this a solid game overall. There's a few reasons this is the forgotten Mario and Luigi game, whether it's the packaging looking extremely different, or the fact they entirely skipped remaking this game, but either way, it's not the best, but it's far from the worst. Next is Mario and Luigi Brothership. Man, when this game came out, the internet burst into flames. Some people were saying it was the best game ever, and others were saying it was literal garbage, but I think this is a very good game. Maybe it's because before this was announced, I thought Mario and Luigi was long dead, but Brothership is a surprisingly good time, with one big issue. Brothership feels like a more grown-up version of Mario and Luigi, keeping so many things people love about the series like the humor and the style, but adding more mature tones to remind me that I am going to die someday. The only real problem with Brothership is that the pacing is terrible. The first 10-ish hours of gameplay and story is very bare bones and dry, so much so that I almost didn't continue beating through it, and I'm very glad I did, but it shouldn't take that long to get going. 99% of the time, I am all for games having more content than they need, but it shouldn't come at the expense of quality. And getting through the first portion of this game is like pulling teeth. But once you get through it, this is one of the best stories, up there with Super Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. The amount of fluff for unlocking new things for combat and seeing what the actual goal of the story is makes it feel like they added padding just to make the game feel longer. But the people who were saying this game is a 5 out of 10 are insane. Aesthetically, this game is beautiful. It somehow kept all of the charm the Mario and Luigi series was known for, but brought it to life in ways that was never possible before. Mario and Luigi, the entire cast of side characters, and all of the enemies you fight are all beautifully designed. There's not really a second that goes by where Mario and Luigi aren't doing some sort of animation to show off how much personality they have. And the world you explore is just as good. I think Concordia is up there with my favorite worlds in Mario history. Though a lot of the islands are very linear, that doesn't make them any less engaging to explore. Ship-Shape Island is a great hub world, and I love how they add onto it as the game expands. And story-wise, though it takes a while to get going, they touch on some really great themes. The side characters you meet in this game are some of the best in Mario RPG history. The only problem I have with it is a minor one, and it's that they cut back the humor a lot. This game takes itself far more seriously than any other Mario RPG, so if you were expecting a lot of wacky moments, you might be disappointed, but if you just went in expecting electricity puns, then you were going to get your fill and then some. I think if they cut a lot of the fluff out of this game, it would be a top 5 Mario RPG, but if a game takes 10 to 15 hours to really get going, I'm going to have a very hard time putting it higher. If you have the time to commit though, I think this is 100% worth checking out. But to me, Brothership and the next game could easily switch places, with the next game being Mario and Luigi Dream Team. I think Dream Team is an underrated game, but at the same time, I also understand every single complaint about it. It was a very good idea that was not executed well. Similar to Brothership, one of the worst things about this game is its pacing, mainly because anytime anything is introduced in the game, there is a 10-minute unskippable tutorial. Dreambert is one of the characters that works with you throughout the entire game, but truthfully, I feel like he's working for the other team, because whenever he appears on screen, I just feel like letting Bowser win. As far as the story goes, the game is fine. It is a decent story all the way through, with nothing that's gonna make you really want to play, but also nothing that is dreadfully boring. There are some great moments like getting to see Luigi's true thoughts, and how he feels about living in his brother's shadow. Phantasma and Bowser though are just kinda there. Up until the end of the game, I don't think Phantasma is a great villain, because the stakes this game has are just kind of lacking. But for what it lacks in story, it definitely makes up for in gameplay. The new Dream World allows Luigi to fill Mario with his essence,
He what?
which in certain areas allows Mario and Luigi to team up to do some spectacular new attacks, which are extremely fun every single time. My only complaint about that is that you can only use them in certain areas, which makes other battles not feel as engaging by proxy. All of the classic Mario and Luigi gameplay and humor is still there, and this time you get to play with a sleeping Luigi.
What role are we playing here, the victim?
Dream Team really tried to capitalize on Bowser's inside story, taking the wackiness of the world and cranking it to an 11. Though it falls flat in some areas, it's a fun time all the way through. Except for all the tutorials, which every single time they pop up, I want to shave my head. We are now at the top 5, and every single one of these games is at least a 9 out of 10 or above, with the next game being Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. And yes, I'm including both the remake and the original. Superstar Saga is the game that started the Mario and Luigi series, and they did an incredible job. The story was simple, but what made it impressive was how great the characters were. Cacleta and Fawful break into Peach's castle and steal her voice, leaving her with an explosive vocabulary, so essentially whenever she talks, you just explode.
Pause.
Of course, like most Mario RPGs, there is a star that you have to collect, this time called the Bean Star. Beans, of course, being a reoccurring theme throughout the entire Mario and Luigi series, which I think is nowhere more prevalent than the kingdom you explore, the Bean Kingdom. Now, it's not the most creative name, I know, but this area is incredible. Every area you explore is full of details, and exploring this world feels like an adventure. This was the first game in the series, so compared to other titles, the gameplay is a little basic, but that doesn't mean it's bad by any means. It was the perfect blend between platformer and RPG, and it brought the home console Mario RPG experience on the go for the first time. Most of the characters you meet on your journey are hilarious, and had incredibly unique designs, and even the returning characters like Bowser were used perfectly. Bowser was the perfect accessory villain in this game. He wasn't the main bad guy or pulling the strings, he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Whether he's Rookie, Bowser, or Bowletta, he was used perfectly throughout the entire game. And my only real complaint is that I wish there was more to it. The game is only about 10 hours long. Pacing wise, it is perfect because they didn't pad it with unnecessary stuff, but I would have loved 2 or 3 more areas to explore to really get the most out of this world. And the 3DS version, in my opinion, is just as good. There were tons of quality of life changes to make the game play more like later games in the series. They upgraded the graphics for better or for worse. I'm personally a fan of the sprite art style in the first 3 games, but that's not to say this looks bad at all. And they added a new side game mode, Minions Quest, which I think is pretty fun. I wouldn't say it's something you need to play, because there is no part about this that is that fun, but getting additional bonus content is not something I'm going to be mad about, which makes Superstar Saga one of the best games in the entire series. But just a little bit better than Superstar Saga was Paper Mario 64. This was the game that started the Paper Mario series, and oh boy, I'm glad it did, because this game did it perfectly. It's a shame down the line it kind of lost its way, because they had had a perfect formula here. The story is far from bad, but it's definitely not the game's strong point. Bowser is your main villain, and honestly, I don't think he's ever been more intimidating. He steals the Star Rod and uses it to seal the 7 star spirits away into tarot cards, and it is Mario's job to get them back. But even though it's simple, they ended up executing perfectly. It is a lighthearted and fun adventure that takes the world of Mario and makes it even more engaging. Having Mario made out of paper was a genius idea because it helps this game hold up way better than other games on the N64. The graphics look really good to this day. The goal of defeating Bowser is a simple one, but this game is the textbook definition of enjoying the journey rather than the destination, because the world you explore is incredible all the way through. The areas you explore are charming, colorful, and open enough where you don't feel extremely limited, beyond a couple areas that feel pretty linear. But there are 2 areas in particular where this game shines. The first being the characters and companions you meet along the way. All of the characters you meet along the way, like Cooper, Goombario, and Bombette, are incredible, and that doesn't even touch on the characters you meet in the locations you explore. Even the most subtle NPC will usually have something funny to say, which makes exploring and interacting with this world all the more engaging. The battle system is fun throughout the entire game, combining real-time button presses with RPG mechanics perfectly, having great items and badges to use to really enhance the gameplay, and being able to play as both Mario and whatever companion you want to use. Paper Mario 64 for years was one of my favorite games, and I can easily see someone putting this as their number 1, but there are 3 games that I think are better. The next being the game that started it all, Super Mario RPG. Again, this is both versions because they're both incredible. Super Mario RPG is revered for so many reasons. If this never released, we wouldn't have gotten games like Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi. This game holds up incredibly well. I like both the Super Nintendo and Switch versions for different reasons, but it doesn't matter which you play, it's going to be a great time. The game was made by Square, so story-wise, it's a little weird. It starts off with Bowser taking Princess Peach, but you handle that within the first 10 minutes of the game. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, a giant sword falls from the sky, spearing Bowser's castle, and causing problems for everybody everywhere.
But I don't think you understand. I am a sword master.
The thing I love most about this game is the incredible cast of characters you get to bring along on your journey with you. Mallow, Geno, Peach, and Bowser are all incredibly fun to use, and in the Switch version you can switch between them in battle, which makes it so I'm using all of the characters even more frequently. The Switch version also introduced incredible cutscenes to the game, which they didn't need to go so hard on, but they look absolutely incredible. Timed hits and triple attacks feel fluid and fun to use. There are side quests galore and hidden things pretty much everywhere to keep even the most seasoned completionist busy for a very long time. And similar to Superstar Saga, the only real complaint I have here is that I wish the game was longer, which was addressed in the Switch version, introducing more post-game content, and it introduced a heightened level of difficulty in some aspects which make it even more engaging. Though it's short, it is paced incredibly well and has become one of my comfort games. To be honest, I love how the Switch version looks, but I'm always going to be biased towards the Super Nintendo because that's how I played this game originally. But it really doesn't matter what version you play, you're going to have a great time with both, easily making this one of the best Mario RPGs of all time. Now, I'm certain I'm going to make at least somebody upset with the top 2 games, and to me, I would give both these games the exact same score as far as quality, but there is one reason I'm going to put one over the other. And so up next is Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story.
What do you mean we can't use the guillotine anymore? That's ridiculous.
I think Bowser's Inside Story is the perfect Mario and Luigi game. The fact that somebody at Nintendo pitched a game where Mario and Luigi venture inside of Bowser, and they ended up rolling with it and making a full game that is incredible, is something I am shocked about to this day. This has to be the weirdest concept for a Mario game, no questions asked. A new disease called Blorbs is taking over the Mushroom Kingdom and making Toads extra thick, and honestly I don't really see the problem here. Meanwhile, Bowser takes a mushroom from a mysterious vendor and eats it, turning him into a fire-breathing Roomba, and when he goes to the Mushroom Kingdom, he sucks up everything in sight, including Mario and Luigi. And from this point on, most of Mario and Luigi's journey takes place inside of Bowser. This took the idea of having multiple characters from Partners in Time and really flushed it out to its fullest. Playing as Mario and Luigi inside of Bowser is the perfect blend of 2D platformer with RPG mechanics. Even though all the locations are themed off of Bowser's intestines, they still managed to have that signature Mario and Luigi charm everybody loves. But the other half of this game, you play as Bowser, and it controls perfectly. Bowser controls a very similar way, but he hits much harder and is much tankier than Mario and Luigi could ever be. Bowser's moveset is different too, and getting to punch someone as Bowser is one of the most satisfying things in a Mario RPG. Watching Bowser journey through the Mushroom Kingdom on his own mission, while being completely oblivious to having Mario and Luigi inside his body, is incredibly funny and surprisingly well written. My favorite part about this though is how well it plays into the continuity of the first two games. The main bad guy and the person who roofied Bowser was Fawful from Superstar Saga, and a little bit of Partners in Time.
There's too many beans!
Prior to playing this game, Fawful was one of my favorite characters. There's something about his face that I just like, but seeing him trying to take over the world was perfectly written, both being incredibly dark and funny. I think Cackleta and the Shroobs were great villains, but they really cannot compare to Fawful. The battles in this game are great, and it doesn't matter if you're playing as Mario and Luigi or Bowser. The special moves that Mario and Luigi and Bowser use are incredible, and thankfully no longer items like they were in Partners in Time, adding another level of strategy to the game. There was a surprisingly large amount of stuff to do, including side quests, but Bowser's Inside Story was the perfect blend of comedy, great storytelling, and awesome gameplay, and it's definitely one of the best DS games ever made. Oh, and they remade it for the 3DS. For some reason, Bowser's Inside Story got remade for the 3DS in 2019, almost 2 years into the life of the Switch. I could understand this for Superstar Saga because that was not playable on the 3DS. So having every single game be playable on that console made sense. But whatever reason they come up with for doing this to Bowser's Inside Story will never make sense to me. This game was already playable on the 3DS, and it was incredible. I could at least somewhat justify them remaking Partners in Time, but Bowser's Inside Story was pretty much perfect as it is. And while the 3DS version is fine, it is nowhere near better than it was on the DS, but it's also not unplayable. Alpha Dream said they wanted to remake their most popular game in the series to give it a more modern feel, which I think is a fine idea, but doing that for the 3DS was a terrible one. The hype around the Switch was extremely high in 2019, and if they brought Bowser's Inside Story to that console, it would have done incredibly well. There are ways they could have got around using both screens, but having this remake come out and be lackluster, I just couldn't put it at number 1, which is going to Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. I think this is one of, if not the best sequel of all time. Paper Mario 64 did a lot of things incredibly well, but The Thousand Year Door took what was great about the original and cranked everything up to 11. The story is one of my favorite parts of the entire game, and even though the overarching goal is pretty simple, it's the stories that take place in each chapter that make the game incredible. The game starts with Peach getting kidnapped, of course, in the wonderful city of Rogueport. It is then Mario's job to get her back by collecting the crystal stars and opening the Thousand Year Door. The mystery behind opening the Thousand Year Door is an incredible idea, even if going and collecting different shiny rocks is something that happens in most of the Mario RPGs. But where the real magic happens is in the individual chapters. Every area you explore to go get a crystal star is so unique. Whether you're riding a train, solving a murder mystery, fighting pirates, or exploring the moon, every single chapter has incredible detail and great characters that make you really invested in the story. Every location is detailed and beautiful, especially on the Switch, with some areas feeling like a typical Mario location, and others being completely unique. Unlike later games in the series, they don't really hammer down that paper feeling, which I think works incredibly well here. I'm fine with the later games really diving into that paper theme, but the paper in this game is purely an aesthetic choice, and I think it works incredibly well. Rogueport is an incredible hub world that contrasts the world you explore incredibly well, but what I think this game did the best was have one of the best battle systems in Mario RPG history. They took what was great about Paper Mario 64's battle system and just enhanced it. Your companions are much more useful than they were in the original, where you're able to switch the order you fight in, which adds another level of strategy to the game, which is very nice. They have their own health gauge, which is extremely nice. But the biggest and most notable change is that battles take place on a stage. The better you do at appealing to the crowd, the more buffs you get, but if you do bad, they will throw things at you, which is a funny yet fun idea, which makes every single battle far more engaging. The leveling system is just as good as ever, and the amount of customization you can do with badges is incredible. There are so many side quests you can do throughout the game. Granted, a lot of them are just fetch quests. Sometimes they give you rewards that are really helpful. There's the infamous pit of 100 trials, which I think has taken at least 10 years off my lifespan, and everything that is good about the original is just as good, if not better, in the remake, which added loads of quality of life changes to make the game more accessible and fun, brought it to the Switch, which means it's available on the go, and made the game look visually beautiful. And though it only runs at 30 frames per second, I can get over that because look at it, it's gorgeous. The Thousand Year Door is often praised as the best Mario RPG right along Bowser's Inside Story, but the only reason I think it's slightly better is because both the original and the remake are both incredible, which is not something you can say for Bowser's Inside Story. But every single Mario RPG is at baseline pretty good, besides Sticker Star, because what is even that? But make sure you drop your list in the comments, and as always, thank you for watching. I hope that you and your family have an incredible rest of your day, and if you like anything that you saw here, please consider subscribing.